As promised in the previous episode of the Devlab series, today we will set up a GitLab runner in a Proxmox LXC container. Then we will configure a GitLab CI/CD pipeline to update our RouterOS router when the variables file for the router is updated. A GitLab runner is an application that works with GitLab CI/CD to run jobs in a pipeline. Normally, you install the runner on a host and register the runner with the GitLab server. The runner on that host becomes a GitLab runner instance. GitLab runners accept tags, and when you want to run a specific pipeline on a specific runner, you target the tag in the pipeline, and we will see how to do that. When the pipeline is triggered, GitLab schedules the pipeline to run on the next available instance of the runner that has the tag. This is a new playbook in our repository that can create our Ansible runner. First, we use our usual roles to create the runner and to purge it if it exists and recreate it again. Then, since we are using Debian on the runner, we run our base Debian role. Then, our runner needs to run Ansible commands and playbooks, so it needs to become an Ansible controller. For that, I created an Ansible runner role that we will explore now, and then we see how we make this new host an Ansible, a GitLab runner. So let's look at the roles, the new roles we created. We start with the Ansible controller. So the tasks here are the same tasks that we have seen in the first episode when we configured our first Ansible controller. First, we install the required packages. If we need to remove any packages, we remove them. Then we copy the Ansible requirements file and we run Ansible requirements. The only difference is that here we are installing the Ansible collections in a public place, in a public directory, so that they become accessible also to the GitLab runner, not only to the root user, to the GitLab runner. The Ansible requirements are still the same. We are requiring the same collections. And in the defaults file, we see that we are requiring the same packages that we used to require when we set up our Ansible controller in the first episode of the series. So this is a straightforward role. Now let's see how to create a GitLab runner in GitLab. So if I go to the administration area as an administrator and I click on runners, I see this page here, and this page it says you can create an instance runner. If I click on an instance runner, I see that the registration process is only supported in GitLab, an old version of GitLab, which means the registration process was deprecated. Unfortunately, the Ansible model that interacts with GitLab regarding runners is called GitLab runner, and that model still uses the deprecated process. I decided not to use that model and to use to call the API directly. So this process can be automated through the API, but let's see how it works manually. So basically, you choose what type of runner you want. It's an operating system on Linux. You can use a runner Docker container if you want, and the tags would be I want to make an Ansible runner, and I don't want to run untagged jobs. I don't want to add any description, and I want to keep the defaults. And if I create a runner, I get the registration token here. So this is my registration token, and I can use it to register a runner automatically. And if I go to the runners page, I see that I have a runner that does not have anything associated to it. So what I will do now, I can either create that, copy that token and use it in my role, or I can automate this process. And this is what I will show you now. So this is the role. It depends on whether you are passing an authentication token or no. If you already have an authentication token, the role starts from here. If you do not have an authentication token, the role will create the authentication token for you, and the authentication token is controlled in the variable file. So let's see what the role does. Now we are not passing an authentication token. Let's see what the role does. We call the API using the URI model. We post to this endpoint on the GitLab URL, and we pass an access token. The access token we create as we did in the previous episode when we connected our GitLab instance to our editor Codium. Then we pass that we want to have an instance type, a runner type is of type instance type, so that it is accessible across the entire GitLab server in all groups and in all repositories. We want to specify our tags, and we do not whether we want to run untagged jobs on this runner or no. We save the result of the API call, and we fail when we do not have a token. Then if we have a token, we show the token in the logs so that we can copy the token to the role and use it in the next runs of the role, so that we do not create a new runner every time we run the role. Then we save the authentication token to our variable, the new authentication token. We save it to our variable. So now this variable is defined so that we can continue the pipeline. First, we download the runner from the URL, and the documentation for everything I'm doing here will be in the article. We add a runner user. We remove the logout script. Yes, so the Debian container contains this bash logout file that prevents running the runner. So we have to remove this file, and there is documentation for that also in the article. Then we install the runner. Basically, this gets a service in the container. Then we copy the system identification file. Yes, so I should have mentioned that before. The system identification, this is a hack that I created so that when we run the role again, or in a new install of the runner, we get the same system identification. Now, there is nothing in the documentation that says you can do that, but I tried it and it worked for me, so that I don't get a new instance runner every time I run the role. I found this useful, so I'm using it, although it is not documented anywhere in the documentation that I could find. Then we register the runner, and when we register the runner, we pass the variable through environment variables to the GitLab runner register command, and then after registering the runner, we start the runner. The variables for this role are here. So first we have the runner type instance runner. Oh, I need to put this as a variable. So we have first the instance type. Then we have the tag list, and in this runner, I'm targeting only Ansible, and I don't want to run untagged jobs. This is the system identification that I found works for me, and I'm not passing a runner authentication token. I'm giving it some normal variables, and I'm saying that this executor, the runner executor, is shell. Here you can use multiple options. You can use Docker or multiple options. You can find them in the documentation. So now my playbook that uses this role becomes like this. We have seen the first 3 plays, and this is the 4th play, and we pass the Ansible runner, and we call the role GitLab runner. Executing this role with recreate equals true will give us an Ansible, a GitLab runner that is able to run Ansible roles. Now this, the install itself takes about 10 minutes, so I will cut the video and come back to you when the install is completed. The execution has finished successfully, and we got a new token that I have used in the Ansible variables file, Ansible runner variables. So I also did a small change to the playbook. Most of the time is taken on installing Ansible dependencies, all the collections we need to run to make this an Ansible controller. If we change this, if we put this task, the last one, we can continue or resume working on the runner Once we have registered it, we have a new runner registered. We see that this is tagged as Ansible, and we have it registered to our system identification, and it is online. The connection is working. To test this runner, we can make a small change to one of our playbooks and create a pipeline that would target this runner via the tag and see if the pipeline is run correctly and the playbook is executed successfully on our infrastructure. So to be able to do that, we need to replicate our Ansible controller environment inside the runner. In our Ansible controller, we have a vault, an encrypted vault. We have the vault password. We have the SSH key. So we have variables, some variables that we need to deploy along with the execution of the job. These are not part of the runner. These are part of the environment of our Ansible controller. We can replicate that in the repository using variables. So we go to our repository and we click on the settings of the repository and CI/CD. And here we see variables. So we need to create some variables here that would replicate our environment. What I will do is, since these are secrets, I will not do them on the camera, but I'll do them offline, and I'll come back to you after I have created these three. Basically, the three of them are files. I'll create them as files, and they are not executed against protected branches yet. Maybe we can protect them later, and they do not include embedded variables inside them. So we give each one of them a key and a value. I have now created three variables: the Ansible SSH key, private key, the Ansible vault file, and the Ansible vault password file. In my experiments, I could not get GitLab to decrypt the vault using the password. So what I did is I uploaded my vault unencrypted. So this is basically the same thing you see in the template. We use these variables in a pipeline, and the pipeline we can configure here. So the default name of the pipeline is .gitlab-ci.yaml, and we can change this configuration from here. But if we want to use the default configuration, we can create this file. My article linked below this video contains many links to documentation pages regarding GitLab pipelines. The pipeline consists of stages and jobs and other stuff, but my pipeline is a very small one. It contains one job. This job runs when these rules are satisfied. The first rule is there are changes to this file, to var/routerOS. So if I have changes to this file, and we have changes, as you see, this job is run. And if the commit branch is this branch, the branch that I am testing on, later on, this will become the main branch. We run this pipeline only when there are changes committed to the main branch. But now I am testing, so I'm using my current branch. We target the Ansible runner. So this is the connection between my pipeline and the runner that we created in the earlier part of this video. We use the variables here. First, we take the Ansible vault file variable, which is, I created it as a file. So this environment variable here contains the path of that file on the runner. We link that file inside my repository in the correct place so that my playbooks can load this file when they are run. We run the RouterOS playbook with the inventory file. The inventory is still the same. And we pass the SSH private key so that we can connect using the same private key we use on our Ansible controller. And we pass the password vault file. As I said before, I could not use this file to decrypt the password on the runner. but I need it because I have it configured. I have it here in my configuration, and I don't want to remove this configuration. I want to keep it to separate my personal configuration password files from what I use for the Devlab series. So now we are ready to run our pipeline. Let's review the changes to our repository. We start with the README file. This file was not part of the previous tag, and I added it to the even to the main branch, and now I have it. I have some updates to it, like new links, and also from the previous tag. This is a small bug that I was using this devlab.bve file, which is a very old file. I deleted this file now, so it does not exist, and I'm using the correct file, devlab-bve. I also added a change to the GitLab config role. I added a small an example role on how to add a user to a group in GitLab. So the new user we create will be added to all the groups that we create. This is just an example. We have the roles. So let's look at the changes here. We have this new role, the Ansible role, and the GitLab runner role. Okay. We have the variables for the Ansible runner. We have the variables. Yes, I changed this API key, this SSH key. I needed to change it. We deleted that out file, and we are adding this small change that we want to test whether it will be deployed to RouterOS in a pipeline or no. In the Vault template, we have a new variable, and that variable is used in this task. No, not in task here. In that variable is used in the GitLab runner in the first task here, and this is an access token. We have seen how to create a GitLab access token in the previous episode. So variables, we have seen this one, the RouterOS, yes, Vault template. So we have the our pipeline that we will test whether it will run or no. We have the new Ansible runner role, and I'm committing the change I made today. Still not tested. Please tell me if it when you test it, if it works for you. This change, we have talked about it. We added also the inventory, the Ansible runner to the inventory, and that's all. Before I commit and push the code, I want to show you the status of the repository. So currently we have, this is our repository. The last change was 4 days ago. And when I added the README file. And if I look at build pipelines here, I see I don't have any pipelines running or executed. So hopefully if I push the code right now, I'll have pipelines here. So let's see what happens. I commit, and I have a branch to publish. Let's see what happens now. I have a pipeline running. So I am configuring the router. The next step, while this is running, I don't think it will fail because normally we tested this pipeline. So the next thing we have to do here is to change the CI/CD to run on the main branch and commit and push this code and create a pull request for this, and you will be able to review the pull request once I push it to GitHub. So our pipeline has finished, and we can see that in the pipeline that we have one successful pipeline that have passed. And in GitLab here, I can see also, I refresh, I see one pipeline that has executed, and I could have tracked it from here as well. So this is the log of the pipeline. I get it in my Codium code, and I see that the new change I made has been deployed to the router, and we can confirm it on the router if we want. You can open the router interface and confirm it. In the next episode, we will build our first development container. That would be a Node.js development container for Dashi. And I will tell you why I selected Dashi as my first experiment in the next episode. Then we will build some Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP dev containers for PHP development for WordPress and Drupal and similar PHP systems. Then I'm working on a very exciting episode. I called it WireGuard as you have never seen it before. This will be part of the rebuilding the Linux router, the Debian router, and this will be very exciting for me. I'm really enjoying working on it, and I think you will as well. I have more episodes coming, but maybe I will delay the Jenkins CI/CD episode until season 2, where we do pipelines on a different hypervisor. So I will see what happens about that, and I will let you know if you follow me and subscribe to the series.